President Trump sounding optimistic about a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine.
My whole life has been one big negotiation, and I know when people are playing us, and I know when they're not, and I have to see an enthusiasm to want to end it. And I think I see that enthusiasm. I think I see it from both sides.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio representing the U.S. amid negotiations between the Kremlin and Kyiv being held in Paris.
There's new pressure to reach a ceasefire. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, during this visit to Paris, France, said that Washington could walk away from efforts to bring the war to an end if there is not clear progress being made. During his time with European leaders, Secretary Rubio explained that President Trump feels strongly that he has dedicated a lot of time and energy to ending the war. Without new progress, the president will move on and focus on other important matters. Now, in Ukraine, in the latest series of Russian scaled-up attacks in recent weeks, Russian forces launched a massive drone attack on the southeastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro, killing at least 3 people, including a child, and wounding dozens of others.
Fox's Alex Hogan. President Trump says negotiations with trade partners around the globe will continue after he paused his tariff plan with most nations, China the exception.
He's even optimistic about a potential agreement with China coming down the pike in the not too distant future. He wouldn't say whether he's been speaking directly with President Xi of China, but he says he's been speaking with top officials in Beijing, which he views as one and the same. We do know he met yesterday with the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. He says that meeting was fantastic and thinks the U.S. can reach a broader trade agreement with the European Union.
Fox's Grady Trimble there. U.S. airstrike on an oil port held by Yemen's Houthi rebels, killing more than 70. That, according to the Iranian-backed group. The strike eliminates a source of fuel for the Houthis. America is listening to Fox News.
It's tax season. By now, we're all a bit tired of numbers, but here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number, $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed. Save up to 40% in your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com, promo code CLAY. Terms apply.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Classes remain canceled at Florida State University after yesterday's shooting that left 2 dead. Many students recounting the chaos. Owen Gerard says he thought the gunshots were just construction noise.
We dismissed it immediately. Next thing you know, you have all of these students running at you, yelling that there's a shooter.
Well, 6 people were wounded and remain hospitalized.
Students are being allowed to return to residence halls and other buildings to retrieve their belongings at Florida State University in Tallahassee following Thursday's campus shooting. Though many people are expected to be away from the campus due to the Easter holiday. All victims are said to be either stable or improving. Police say the gunman is also in the hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. That suspect was shot and wounded by responding officers. In Miami, Evan Brown, Fox News.
The legal battles continue. The Trump administration now asking an appellate court to pause a recent contempt finding. The request was made after Judge James Boasberg's order finding probable cause to hold the administration in criminal contempt after his order was ignored to return deportation flights from El Salvador. The judge added he could refer the matter for prosecution. The National Archives releasing the first 10,000 pages on the so-called RFK files, his assassination back in 1968. Well, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard telling Fox News she noticed red flags.
There are other documents there. I mentioned State Department cables that showed different countries were sending messages to each other around Senator Kennedy's assassination, saying that he had been assassinated, but that was before he was actually killed.
President Trump ordering the declassification of RFK, JFK, and the MLK assassination files. The government's COVID-19 website has been replaced with information laying out the China lab leak theory. So far, the origin of the deadly global pandemic, though, has not been proven. I'm Tom Graham, and this is Fox News.
So again, everyone, let's check weather for East Central Illinois. Champaign-Urbana vicinity on this Good Friday, and it'll be just that weather-wise with a summer-like feel. Boy, you're going to need plans B and C as we head deeper into the Easter holiday weekend, including on Easter Sunday itself. A windy, warmer one expected today. Skies will turn partly sunny later this afternoon. That could breed a lone, isolated shower thunderstorm late in the afternoon, up around 80 with a gusty south wind 20 to 30 miles per hour. Periods of showers, thunderstorms for tonight. Some good soaking rains across the area. Breezy, mild 57 on a southwest wind that'll turn northwest to north tomorrow, so markedly cooler with variably cloudy skies, a couple of showers and isolated thunderstorms morning and afternoon as well, the high up to 62. Scattered showers tomorrow night, low down to 49, and some showers, maybe a rumble of thunder both Easter Sunday morning and the afternoon, the high at 68. 65 and a lingering shower threat on Monday, dry Tuesday 73, into the 70s Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Each day a couple of showers and thunderstorms. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solier.
Hey, what's up? Happy Friday. It's The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Derek Piper, Kyle Toss. Chicago Cubbies in action right now. Day baseball at Wrigley Field. And I texted this to you and Lon, Kyle. How in the heck did you guys turn Carson Kelly into Mike Piazza? It's crazy.
Am I going to regret not taking the plus 50,000 MVP odds on Carson Kelly last week at this point?
Oh, yeah. Didn't I offer that up to you when we went through it?
I think I passed it up. That might look dumb now.
Maybe.
He's got a 1,600 OPS.
I did have to think for a second. Do you know who Mike Piazza is? Are you too young for that?
Yes, I'm aware of Mike Piazza.
Okay. Incredible hitting catcher, Hall of Famer. I was going through it because, of course, Carson Kelly, former Cardinal. I was reminded in looking at his profile today, former second-round pick by the Cardinals back in 2012. He's 31 years old, and if you look at his full seasons in the big leagues, he played, let's see, why am I on spring training? I was trying to find if there have been indications of this leading up to this breakout month of April. He did have a good spring training, hit over 400, but you always wonder, once you get into real games, does it translate? His 2022 season, he played 104 games for Arizona, 211 average, 7 home runs. Last year, 91 games across 2 teams, 238 average, 9 home runs. He's already got 5 bombs, hitting 414. Previously, he had never hit above 240 in a season. And again, some of his high points of home runs, I guess 2019, he hit 18. But to get off to this start, wind blowing out strong in Wrigley today. I'm surprised there's not a higher score as we speak right now.
I'm sure that there won't be any drama with these 8 outs bullpen has to get with a 1-run lead and the wind blowing straight out to center. That'll be smooth, I'm sure.
I like the sound of that. I have been wishing for some tense Cubs Day baseball and seeing Kyle get worked up, so we can do that as we go along.
But those numbers from Kelly last year, 238 with 9 homers, would have been a substantial improvement to the Cubs' backup catcher position this year, or any catcher position. If you would have told me sign up for those numbers this year in 91 games, I'm taking that all day long. Obviously, he's not going to do this all year long, but the catcher position in general, because Amaya's played pretty well too so far, that's been like the biggest single upgrade other than Tucker in the Cubs lineup. Now, I'm sure that neither of those guys are world beaters at the plate. Are they going to hit this well all season? Obviously not, but that is a big key for the Cubs is can you get decent production from the catcher spot as opposed to zero production, which is what they've gotten for the last few years, really since Contreras left for St. Louis.
He's out hitting Wilson Contreras currently by a long shot. So
he was traded for Goldschmidt, right?
Yes, him and Luke Weaver.
Luke Weaver's playing pretty well too.
Nice bullpen arm for the Yankees, yeah. Especially had a really good close to last season. Him and Kelly both now, when you look at what Kelly's doing this year for the Cubs and Weaver late last year and who he's become for the Yankees in the back end of the bullpen have been 2 nice pieces not regretting still? Like, you got a handful of seasons for.
I mean, these guys have both had
all-star level. Yeah,
neither of them had done anything until like last year. Luke Weaver out of nowhere is a good reliever for the Yankees, and now Carson Kelly's been a backup for 4 different teams, and now is having a hot month. Like,
yeah, I know you weren't suggesting.
I wasn't. No, I was mad when the Cardinals made that move because it was such a steal of a trade.
Right. I think in contrast to the Nolan Arenado trade, where you look at Austin Gomber and he has not pitched well for them, so there's not a lot of regret, but it is kind of, I don't know, I'm doing it more so from a standpoint of being entertained by what Carson Kelly's doing so far. Now we get to June and it's the Cardinals-Cubs series and he's hitting 4 bombs in 3 games. I'm gonna be ticked off, Kyle, about this, but as of right now, I'm just like, how are you guys doing this? And is this just a flash in the pan for a few weeks, or is he really going to be this real presence at the plate for you at the catcher spot?
If I had to put money on it, I'd say it's a flash in the pan for a few weeks, but I'll enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully it doesn't stop.
We'll keep you updated. Cubs 2-1 in the top of the 7th.
Here we go.
Throwing the ball around a little bit now that we've dipped into the bullpen. Nice start.
Swinging bunt and then thrown away pickoff move. Now Corbin Carroll's on second.
Yeah. Runner on second, 2 outs, top 7. Cubs have the lead 2-1. Another good start for Colin Ray, who pitched well against the Dodgers and did so again today for the Cubs against the D-backs. Two quality starts. Not necessarily you're registering the quality start today because you didn't last through 5 innings, but
yeah, that's the issue.
One earned.
He's not going to give you a lot of length. That's still going to be such a huge priority. You're probably not going to be able to make a move happen until July, but I mean, we talked so much about how big a need the bullpen is, but now starting pitcher might be your top need heading into the deadline. And as I said before, like, just reconstructive elbow surgery. I'm not like feeling like Justin Steele's going to be all good and ready to go opening day next year to his normal 3.05 ERA. I think you're probably going to need to have some more insurance in your rotation going forward.
No doubt about it. And I did see Steele announce that he had successful surgery and thanked everybody for their support. So he is on the road back to trying to get back on the mound sometime next year. But yes, in the meantime, they will seemingly, if they especially want to be a real threat in the playoffs, you would imagine needing to add another significant arm in the starting rotation. Wade on the Max Twin City Recycling text line suggested roids the reason as Carson Kelly's got it going. Hey, Sammy Sosa was at spring training. You never know. Cork bats, roids. How about the double dip? Let's get both going.
I'm sure he's been sent one of those random drug tests. Hey, Carson, we randomly selected you to take a drug test.
Isn't that always funny?
And then I love when guys post that. They're like, I just hit 3 homers yesterday, and they randomly selected me. Interesting. Okay. Have you seen? I've seen some players do that. It's hilarious.
It's kind of funny. It's not like I never saw Nick Madrigal or whoever stinks for the Cardinals at the time. Like, yeah, I just got tested today. I don't think they're bothered by that. Yeah, you might need it at that point in time. All right, we'll talk some more baseball.
Would Nick Madrigal taking steroids increase his ground ball exit velocity from 70 to 78, or what?
Probably could.
Would he hit a higher pop up?
Oh, man. No love lost between Kyle Tosk and Nick Madrigal. But we will move into Illinois basketball. Let's talk about that, of course, front of mind for everybody day in and day out as we cycle through the roster building sector of this spring, really. And you're looking at the transfer portal. You're looking at other options, although that's certainly the main focus. But as we've seen with Illinois basketball in particular, the international scene is something that you can tap into, and getting David Mirkovic obviously is one that is going back to those roots for sure. So I think there's, of course, multiple ways to bring in talent. Dame Sarr would not be via the transfer portal, but he's an option that Illinois has pursued. We talked a lot about some of the names that entered yesterday, in particular Andrei Stojakovic, who I think Illinois is going to be a huge player for. There's a lot of smoke already that they might even be in the driver's seat in the early going. But we've seen this before. Not to say that it's going to happen as it has in some instances, but you have to close that. You have to be able to go from being the expected choice then to being the choice. And I know that's easier said than done, and you control what you can control as far as that side of things. But it's worth reminding people that, Ray J. Dennis, when he went in the portal, was thought to be Illinois to lose, and then there was a lot of buzz.
Oh, don't bring
I know,
back
my
that
fault.
memory.
I just don't want people to freak out when it's like, what do you mean he hasn't committed after this weekend? Like, he was supposed to be ours, right? Like, you have to make sure that you get it done. And does the asking price go crazy now that he's on the open market? And we know what this market has been. It's been incredible inflation on how much people are able to demand. And I will say from the front end sounds great for Illinois. I think Illinois has a connection because Orlando Antigua was recruited him before at Kentucky. I think the fact of having the presence that they have with international players, which he is Serbian and Greek between his dad, Peja, and his mom. So, you've already seen that Balkan flair with the Ivic brothers from Croatia and Mirkovic from Montenegro. So I think that plays into it as well. And just the development they've had, the roles that they've been able to put guys in. Will Riley being a playmaking wing, who got the ball in his hands a ton. Even in watching more and more of Stojakovic, you can see some Marcus Damask in there too. I think he's a guy that obviously had a ton of success, and just the freedom to come in and play with the ball in your hands and have good options around you, and a system that provides spacing. And hopefully, from Illinois' standpoint, it's going to be another winning team that gets attention. And so I think that there's a lot of reasons that it stacks up well for Illinois on the front end. I've heard the price tag at the very beginning isn't crazy. Might even be,
that'll probably change.
Yeah, that's part of it, right? That's part of the things you wonder about. Although I think Illinois is well prepped in holding some of their money back or being patient enough to go all in on a piece that they view as the big splash that they want to get. And I think he's the guy that they've been really waiting for.
Would you anticipate that he would go for less money than Sarr?
As of right now, I think the bids, I shouldn't say bids, because I think if it was a full-fledged open chase for Stojakovic, it would get very hefty in terms of price tag.
Because if from that perspective, now again, price might go way up now that he's officially entered the portal. Who knows what that could turn into? But you'd have to think, let's say he goes for less than Dame Sarr. And we had this conversation yesterday, but yes, Dame Sarr is a potential first-round draft pick, but in terms of college impact, particularly as an offensive player next season, that would be pretty good return on investment comparatively to if you end up bowing out of the Sarr chase, which I'm not sure if that's officially. I mean, it sounds like that's the case, obviously, if you're going after Stojakovic, but I think you could view that as maybe a positive trade-off there. Even if they're, let's say, the same, like they both go for $2.5 or $3 million or whatever the case may be, you could have the debate about which guy you'd rather have. But I do think from a production and offensive perspective, that could be pretty decent for Illinois.
Oh yeah, big time. And it's a guy that will turn 21 years old, has had 2 years of high major experience, and you see the shot creation. He's able to do some things. Ball in the hand, primary scoring option. I mean, a guy that was putting up 30 points pretty regularly late last year. Yes, on a bad team.
Like 37 in the ACC tournament against his old school Stanford.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's obviously there. And I think that in terms of guys being around him, if he were to be at Illinois or somewhere else that could take pressure off of him in terms of how you can guard him and just different options to open up the floor and take some pressure off him. I think that could even make him even better. Maybe even cleans up or vaults up some of his three-point shooting percentages, which his stroke looks good. He just hasn't shot higher than around the 32% range from three, which is something that, in his bloodlines, obviously Peja was just lights out from beyond the arc, and see if you can get that out of him. But to what we were talking about money-wise, just to say it flat out, I've been told from a couple of people, I'm not saying that I'm involved in the day-to-day, here's where the number's at. And, as with things in this cycle, things can change in a few hours as far as, price and where things might be swinging. And but sounds like $2 million range for Stojakovic, which to me is
in this market, I would take it.
Is a big bargain if that's ultimately what he goes for. Now again, he just hit the open market. He just officially went into the transfer portal today for teams to see his name on there, and it's open season now to reach out to him. He has a do not contact tag, but that just means, in most cases, just means go through my agent. I won't deal with the circus. He'll do it. So if it lands at $2 million, that would be a huge steal in my opinion. I know that last year $2 million was like the top of the top with Coleman and Osobor getting that. Now when you see players, JT Toppin staying at Texas Tech for $4 million, and we talked about Ian Jackson being a $3 million or so type of player, and there have been a lot of those. So I think that would be a bargain. But does that get jacked up to $3 million before too long? It could. Dame Sarr in particular, it sounds like that has eclipsed $3 million in terms of the bids that he's gotten here recently. I don't know what each school has submitted, but it sounded like Oregon, Miami, USC were all teams that really came in very, very strong after the Nike Hoop Summit. Kentucky's reportedly involved now. I don't think Duke's completely done with him. I think that they've been still trying to figure out how some pieces move, although there's smoke now that Nate Ament, I think he received a crystal ball for Tennessee. That was a 5-star guy they've been going after and were thought to land at one time, but I saw Tennessee, I think, viewed now as maybe the team to beat at this point in time. For Illinois, and this is interesting, I think this would be, can I paint I mentioned Ray J. Dennis a few minutes ago, and I'm sorry for bringing that up. That's the pessimistic or just cautionary tale, I guess. The most optimistic side of this, the best case scenario for Illinois, I'm skeptical on it happening. Actually, I don't think it will happen. But with Stojakovic, maybe if he were to sit at that $2 million price tag, you would have some room then to make another decent splash, I think, if you still say had $2 to $3 million left, whatever it might be. What if you try to get Stojakovic at 2 and then still talk to Dame Sarr and try to get him?
I was going to ask the question next. That exact question. I was going to say, why can't you get both? Mm-hmm. That's as simple as that. It might just be that, look, the bidding war is going to get too crazy. One of those guys is going to be over $3 million. You just can't make it work. Or at this point, maybe the Sarr ship has sailed because you have so many other teams that are getting in that mix now, and Illinois is focused on different things. But, I mean, you look at this Illinois roster, and I get you don't have unlimited money, right? But Illinois probably hasn't spent an astronomical amount. Like, you've had to spend a lot to get Kylan back, to get Tommy back. Obviously, Mirkovic, Ty, Big Z are all going to command something, but you see some of these budgets that are getting thrown around there. You see whoever it was it Matt Norland who reported there's like 8 teams that have spent over $10 million, and Jeff Goodman said, I think there's way more than that. Is Illinois like really strapped for money right now, or should you be? Is there any reason Illinois shouldn't be involved with both guys at once?
I think they are still involved with Sarr, and I think to that point, if they can get Stojakovic at a reasonable or really a favorable price, then you might be asking Dame not to take the highest offer on the table ultimately, but you could still present a case why he could come to Illinois and make it work. It sounds like they're still trying to make it work with Dame. I personally am not super optimistic because I feel like Stojakovic, that price tag could go up as Ian Happ sends one over the wall.
Slam.
For a grand slam.
That should be enough for this pen, maybe.
That's
hopefully.
Awesome. I say that as a Cardinals fan.
And he's been slumping too. That's a huge swing of the bat for him. Let's go.
6-1 Cubbies, bottom 7 after a granny to right from Ian Happ. Yeah, so I think also with Dame, I think the price, at least if you're going highest bids as of a couple of days ago, well into the $3 million, maybe, in the mid threes for Dame Sarr. I don't think Illinois can make it work to be, top of the market type of offer to Dame and get Stojakovic. And to what we've talked about earlier this week, if Brad's operating, as far as I understand, if he can make one big splash remaining, he doesn't want it to be, ideally, a freshman, a 19-year-old, in what Dame Sarr would be. Now, I think if we are providing this context, what if your big splash is more affordable than some others? Could you then also get Dame Sarr? That, to me, would be a grand slam, similar to what Ian Happ just. That would be sensational. And could you make it work to where it's Kylan at the 1, Sarr at the 2, Stojakovic at the 3, however you want to start the 4 and the 5? Obviously, Tommy being the 5, you're going to start Z with him. You can start Mirkovic with him. That would be incredible.
Talk about answering a lot, if not most, of the questions still remaining on this roster with those two guys.
Agreed. So I think that is still, from Illinois' side of it, I think they understand that that might not be the most likely outcome as of right now, but it'd be dumb not to explore that. So I think the conversations continue, to my understandings, with Dame's side of things. Although I think, it's been voiced that, hey, from a money standpoint, we're only going to be able to go so high, most likely. And I think Dame, too, it's worth reminding, is still probably, he announced, by the way, today or last night, that he is no longer part of FC Barcelona. And I think he's going to declare for the draft, and I think he's going to go through the process, and I think he has high interest in staying in, depending on the feedback. You wouldn't want to be in a case where, he's your big splash and then he stays in the draft. Did Tucker go back to back?
Just missed it.
Oh, man. I told you earlier,
he's on his way to
where's
third.
The score in this game for, I think it's 20+ mile an hour winds out to the outfield?
Yeah.
Blowing out.
That's why I'll take as
Better
many
way to
more
say it.
runs as possible, just in case.
Yeah, so 651, what's the latest on Ace Wolf? We'll get to that here. I think within that, I think it makes the Adam Miller side of this pretty interesting, both in terms of, he's the experienced guy. He's 23, going to turn 24 in January. He's somebody that would be less expensive than Dame. Obviously, given the choice, I think most people would land on Dame, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah, you're still waiting on Adam Miller to see what he's going to do. And to just transition into that, I think he's probably going to announce any day now. I don't know what his decision is going to be. I've been digging really hard the last 2 days. Had been told by somebody that is pretty close to, if not in his camp, that within 24 hours as of yesterday, thought that he might land on a decision. Now, these decisions, sometimes you hear that that's the case, and it goes longer than that because these are tough. These are tough to land on a choice where you got one season left and you want to pick the right spot and you got good options on the table, and maybe there's even some last-minute jockeying of position in terms of money and that kind of thing. I think Illinois is pretty well laid out their best offer, as far as I understand it, the best offer they're willing to make. I think it's if what I've been told is correct, I think it's near $1 million or just at $1 million. I feel like they will not be the highest bidder in this chase. Will it be enough to get him? I don't know. I was told yesterday that Baylor and Gonzaga are two that to watch out for, as along with Illinois, as top contenders at this point in time. And we'll see where it goes. But I think Adam would be a nice piece for Illinois. I think it checks, as we talked about, some important boxes. But I got to admit, I am also interested in, could it be that Stojakovic is a decent price guy and the Dame, the dream there isn't quite dead yet?
That would definitely be the dream scenario, is getting those two guys. If you assume that you probably are only going to get one, and let's assume it's Stojakovic at, call it $2 to $2.5 million, somewhere in that range. You get Adam Miller at $1 million. How much would you have left at that point? What would you still need at that point? Or would you be done? Would you still want to add one more piece to that mix? If you get those two guys, Sarr moves in a different direction, would you have enough to make, I don't want to say, not a Dame Sarr type of another splash, unless maybe Will Riley was saying, I want to come back, and then at that point, I would hope that Brad Underwood and his entire staff sit down in the Icon offices and say, look, guys, let's make this happen, please.
Right.
Assuming that's not the case, though.
And assuming the settlement hasn't gone through yet.
True. What would it look like if you can get those two guys on board for around those ranges? Would that probably be it for Illinois, or would you still be looking to add maybe one more piece? Me personally, I think you're still a guard short at that point.
Yep.
Now, what would that guard look like? Would it be a guy who would compete with Adam Miller at the starting 2 spot, or would it be more like a Justin Harmon type of ad where the understanding is you're probably going to play a smaller role off the bench, but maybe some type of backup ball handler?
I feel like it would most likely be a bench guard in the rotation, like a Justin Harmon. That would be ideal. If you get in a situation where you can land Stojakovic at that number on the front end that it is said to be, maybe you have more in your pocket to push the ceiling, or just, who you could land as far as that other piece. Because if Adams $1 million and Stojakovic ends up being $2 million, I think you probably still have another $1 million or so left. I don't know all the numbers, but it's been based on what I've been able to gather. I think if you add those two pieces, it's been said to me, you're probably looking for a rotational guy that maybe it's a bargain guy. I think if Stojakovic goes up, if it's a $3 million, if for what I've thought for a while, a splash plus Adams probably $4 million.
Okay,
and maybe you fall short there. Ideally, with Stojakovic's price, maybe. As it sits right now. Now watch, we'll talk on Monday, and Stojakovic could be $4 million by himself. But
that's my fear. I think $2 million is probably a very conservative estimate of what you can get him at. Even if that's something you've heard, I don't think that'll last through this weekend. Probably.
No, I know. Dame was supposed to be $2 million before the Hoop Summit, and then the Hoop Summit happened, and now he's like mid threes, and this stuff happens. So I'm just sharing the numbers because it's stuff that I've heard, and just to provide some context. But yeah, I think that giving some reasonable wiggle room for things to change, I would say you're pretty strapped, but you'd still be interested in adding one more piece. Might be at a bargain, but I'm with you because I want a ball handler. I want a ball handling guard.
Would Stojakovic be able to provide that at all?
It feels that way, right?
I know he hasn't been a high assist guy, but he has had the ball in his hands a lot, and it's usually been from a scoring standpoint because that Cal team asked him to do so much offensively. He had the ball in his hands a lot, was creating in isolation or whatever the case may be. Is not maybe a playmaker, but in terms of just a secondary ball handling option, especially with his ability to score from all three levels, I think he could give you some relief there, but I would still want more of a playmaker, so a guy with at least some type of playmaking track record to him, whether it's just a straight up true backup point guard or even just more of a combo who has run offense before at some level.
Yeah, I agree with that because, again, you want to have some insurance behind Kylan in case there was injury or whatever it might be, foul trouble in a given game. Or just to give him a breather, within a game that, we saw the minutes that, he logged heavy minutes last year. And Brad typically tends to lean really heavily into his main group of five. And, Trent Frazier would play 33, 34, 35 minutes in a given game. But I think, too, one thing that comes to mind, in addition to just somebody that can set the table and pass it a little bit, but I think defense, some of the speedier guards, I mentioned it yesterday, and from a ball handling standpoint, bring the ball up the court. I don't want to get caught in a situation where we're going to face a Houston team, or I know that's the high end, but an athletic team, an aggressive defense. Missouri wants to trap you or whatever it might be, and I don't want to ask Stojakovic or Adam Miller or Ty Rodgers to bring the ball up.
Yeah,
personally, I should be more open-minded to Ty being the backup point guard. I shared that earlier this week that I had been told and asking around, like, as of right now, what's the plan at backup point guard? And was told Ty. That's not the answer that I would want it to be, but maybe he's more suited for it now.
I'd be curious to know, in Ty's year of red shirt, did Illinois envision him, or did he rep a lot as a point guard, or was he more of his natural kind of forward wing spot? Because I do think if he spent an entire season, let's say he's, whether it's just on the scout team or in practice, whatever the case may be, like if he was like a point guard at all times and he was handling the ball a lot, maybe he has improved enough. I mean, he's always had that skill set to him. You never wanted him to be your point guard. I think it was clear that 2 years ago, even though, people will bring up, well, he started at point guard for your Elite Eight team. He wasn't. I mean, he wasn't, for all intents and purposes, Marcus Damascus playing point guard for you in the biggest games.
Thank you.
But, he kind of was the starting point guard at the beginning of the year, and it wasn't really what Illinois wanted. It was kind of their default after they didn't get Ray J. Dennis, right? So it's not, I think he's best as a guy who can do it, but you don't want to be relying on to do it. I do wonder if maybe we're not giving him enough credit in terms of, again, we haven't seen him play for over a year. Has he been repping as a ball handler for a year straight to the point where he can be a serviceable high major ball handler in a secondary role like he's probably going to be asked to be on this team? I guess it's not out of the question that could be the case.
Could be. Yeah. No, that's well said. That's very fair. I think that defensively I have heard, and again, we haven't seen him in practice or had a chance to watch him in any situation post the Ole Miss exhibition, but it sounds like that he guarded the likes of Kylan and KJ and even some Will Riley, on a very daily basis. So I think some of that now outside of, between those three, Kylan would be the speediest of downhill guys. That's still a huge question I have for him, if he is going to be in a situation to guard quicker guards on the perimeter. But
athleticism and speed is still going to be a question with a Stojakovic Miller wrap up to your offseason for sure.
I agree with that.
And just in an offense that's going to be heavily predicated on having an Ivisic twin at the 5 space in the floor, you don't necessarily have the downhill athletes that you'd love to complement those guys. That's where a guy like Dame Sarr would fit better than Stojakovic. Now Stojakovic, I do think, and I haven't watched a ton of him, but I just threw on like a highlight tape of him yesterday. And he does have like the Marcus Damascus really craftiness to his game where he can score at a lot of different angles. He can kind of pump fake you, score over you with his size. But yeah, he's not a blazing athlete. He's not a guy who's going to blow by you to the rim. He's kind of going to size you up and try to score over the top of you more than anything. So I would wonder about, like, what's the ceiling of that roster look like? Is it exactly what you need on the perimeter to maximize your offense?
It's a fair question. I do like the fact that it's a guy I would trust, like you said in the front end of the segment, I would trust running offense through him more than I would trust, Dame Sarr being my number one option
right
on the perimeter as far as that goes. But
from a pure production perspective, offensively, Stojakovic, I think for sure will be the more productive offensive player.
Yeah, he's a true 3-level scorer type. He's a guy that they think can play some booty ball. I know that Mirkovic is somebody they want to explore that with. Doing it again with Ty is someone they want to explore it with and see how that goes. I think that maybe is, I'm not going to say going to fully make up for we're not having a bunch of downhill athletes, but that's another way to get the ball around the paint, around the rim, when you space that floor out the way you're going to. So hopefully Kylan's able to build on going to the basket like he did late in the year. Maybe it's something that Ty can do off the dribble. And we'll see also, again, the way that they round out the rest of this roster. But that is something from a downhill standpoint, like you said, to maximize your spacing, to improve your transition attack. That's why I really wanted an explosive athlete on this team personally, and then also defensively. So that's why an Ian Jackson was so intriguing. Although the recent word I heard that St. John's maybe has that thing wrapped up, but here we are another day and he hasn't announced, so I wonder about that. And that's why Dame Sarr would be phenomenal from that standpoint. And of course, again, the dream scenario would be you get Stojakovic and you still have some room to make Sarr happen, which that would be incredible. But right now, I wouldn't expect that to be the way it goes. We can talk more about Adam Miller and that one as it goes down to the finish line as we go along. We got plenty of texts on the Max Twin City Recycling text lines. A couple of questions we'll get to on the next segment for sure. I know that Kyle and I talked about before the show. We can go through some of the Big Ten of what other teams around the league have done so far in the transfer portal and what that looks like, an early snapshot, at least as we sit in the middle of April. We'll talk some baseball as well, and we're going to play some audio from Coaches versus Cancer. I definitely want to get you Robbie Hummel. I thought he was great, and maybe we'll have time for either Altman or Chris Collins as well. So a lot to do. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
Are you tired of shivering in the winter? Look no further than your local heroes at ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Hi, this is Gina inviting you to give us a call at 217-352-5400 to book your appointment to make sure your furnaces run safely and efficiently this winter. We've been proudly locally owned and operated and have been serving our community for over 50 years. ABC, always be comfortable. Call me 217-352-5400 to book your appointment today or go to abcheatingandac.com.
Take charge of the years ahead with a smart, sound investment strategy and business succession plan. Busey Bank's business and wealth management experts help you envision your best future with powerful insights and proven strategies. Building business and growing wealth since 1868. Busey Bank, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
The Urbana Park District Health and Wellness Center is open. Located at 2002 East Washington Street in Urbana next to the Brookins Center, the Health and Wellness Center has 2 full basketball gyms, pickleball courts, a walking track, weight and cardio rooms, a fitness classroom, and a meeting room. Buy an annual membership for unlimited access. For more information, call 217-255-8601 or visit urbanaparks.org. Urbana Park District, you belong here.
Sarah Champagne Managing Partner Ben Quattrone.
We're always looking for people. You can go online and apply on our website. We never know what we're going to need. We're always expanding. We're always building more and growing our business. If we don't need a person and they come along and we find out that they're an eagle, they're a star, we'll hire them. We'll put them somewhere and wait for the spot we're going to have them working.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com. We're talking to John Reichert from A&R Mechanical. 100 years in our community. So many buildings in this town, like Memorial Stadium. Of course, the State Farm Center. Can you remember the reaction from the company getting that? Because that's a big one.
Oh, that was huge. If you just think about it a little bit, everything we put in is straight, pipe is straight. We're putting all that into a round building. And, it took a lot of know-how to make that project happen. It was one of the first projects we did using our new technologies. And the timing was just right. We were the right people for that project, and I think we did it successfully.
The legacy of A&R. John, I could almost say, what haven't you built? Up and down campus, the Siebel Center was fairly new for computer science.
Everybody was working as a team, and I think it came out very well.
A&R Mechanical has helped build Carl at the Fields expansion and other Carl projects in Provena and Sarah Bush Lincoln. The list goes on and on. Visit them at ar-mech.com.
Live the Champagne life with Champagne Center Partnership and the 5th Annual Wine Walk. Wine enthusiasts from all over the area will gather Saturday, May 31st from noon to 5 and enjoy 1-ounce tastings of 12 exquisite wines from Alto Vineyards. There's 12 unique indoor locations throughout downtown Champaign to explore. Discover new favorites, shop local boutiques, and experience the charm of vibrant downtown Champaign. For details, visit champagnecenter.com/winewalk.
Hi, this is Les Hovland with Philo Exchange Bank. At our banks, we know the hearts of our communities beat with the rhythm of agriculture. Ag lending continues to be something we've excelled at for over 140 years. To you, the farmer, your business has been built on trusted relationships. When it comes to your banking relationship, we want to be your trusted partner.
Philo Exchange Bank, hometown community banking since 1883. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Racing. Farmer City Raceway is your local award-winning dirt track with exciting Friday night lights illuminating the late models and modifieds going for the checkered flag for the win. Make arrangements to get in on the camping with great price points for pit passes and young fans, as well as veterans. Friday nights, the hot laps start at 6:30, then qualifying and racing action. Don't miss out on the fun at Farmer City Raceway. For details, visit farmercityracing.com. You'll buy the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Fireworks at Wrigley Field. And Kyle's getting a little...
I don't know if the 6-run lead was actually safe.
A little edgy, man.
Who else but Eugenio Suarez to homer against the Cubs? He has 36 of them in his career, the active leader against the Cubs. He owns the Chicago Cubs, unlike anybody I've ever seen.
And not just a homer, a grand slam. 7-5 Cubbies, top 8. Somehow you said the reliever that was in before, whoever's pitching now.
Jordan Wicks loaded he came in, how's this for a Friday afternoon big league appearance? 5 pitches, 3 singles, bases loaded, nobody out, counsel out of the dugout, you're done.
How do you load the bases in 5 pitches? I guess that's how. All right, we'll see where this goes in the final innings for the Cubbies as they're trying to hold on to a lead and the first win of the series.
Would be really nice to get these last 5 outs, though, and win a Colin Ray versus Corbin Burns series opener heading into the weekend. I would enjoy that, but
no doubt about it.
I have a feeling these 5 outs aren't going to be smooth and stress-free.
Absolutely. Let's get to some of your texts on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. Got a number of them. Wade says, Brad said Ty Rodgers changed his body. Curious as to what he meant there. It's a good question, Wade. We haven't had a chance to really talk to Ty much about that, really talk to him much at all, other than I know he was made available in the locker room before one of Illinois' NCAA tournament games up there in Milwaukee, and Jeremy Warner caught up with him as far as our site at Atlanta Inquirer. But in talking to some people, I do know that Adam Fletcher's worked really hard. They've been trying to increase his lateral mobility. That's something that they felt like was a weakness of his at the defensive end. So they want to see if they can, whatever goes into that formula of trying to trim him up a little bit more, work on his, I know sometimes you're talking about, hip flexibility and being able to change direction and those type of things. So I can't give you, he's gone from this weight to this weight, or he's, as far as that goes, but I don't think he's, gone in the direction of bulking up. I don't think it's like, hey, he's packing on strength to play the 4. Brad did say out there at Coaches versus Cancer, he believes that Ty will be one of the more versatile players in the Big Ten. It feels like a guy that at 6'6", with decent size to him, that can play a number of different positions and guard a number of different positions. Again, I do wonder, and maybe the lateral mobility has played out to be where he can guard 1 through 4 effectively. That'd be ideal. That'd be great for him and for Illinois. So we'll check in on that as we get further into the spring, and obviously once we're around the team more regularly in the summer and thereabouts. But yeah, that's what I've heard on that front. Bill says Underwood's trying to win a national men's club championship with this team. Size 3s and no defense.
How is Stojakovic on the defensive end? I'm not anticipating that he's a lockdown guy. Is he serviceable? He's got size at least.
Right. I've been asked this by some fans as well. I like you, didn't watch, I'll just flat out say I didn't watch any Cal basketball last year.
No Matty Sissoko runs there.
I found out looking at their roster that he was on their team. So I didn't get a chance to see much other than the highlights that are out there. I do see that he averaged more than a block a game last year. So that plays to, 6'7", and, a guy that if you watch some of his offensive highlights, you see that he's got an ability to, he's not a head above the rim athlete, but he's not, low to the ground, can't get off the hardwood either. So he's got some vertical leaping ability and 6'7", and yeah, anytime a wing is averaging more than a block a game, that's something that was kind of like a Matthew Meyer type of stat line. If you look at what he did at Illinois his final year from a block standpoint, so synergy, which can be flawed sometimes in terms of the defensive metrics, doesn't account for who you're guarding or what you're taking away and different things. But they had him in the 65th percentile, of course, out of 100, which would say above average. But I need to look more into it. Doesn't look to be a guy that, again, I think is going to sound, especially if he's your 3 and Mirkovic or Ivisic is your 4, or even Ben Hamrickhouse would be your 4, and then the Ivisic bros at the 5. Like, really from 3 on down, you're going to worry about lateral quickness, I think. And that's going to be something that you'll have to make up for. But he's not a terrible athlete, and again, 1 block a game is something that you take note of.
Yeah, you're going to really need your backcourt to be good, and that would be the positive of a starting lineup that would include Kylan and maybe Adam Miller would be. I think you have a strong perimeter and your backcourt defensively, but yeah, you would definitely wonder if you have Stojakovic and then let's say you got Mirkovic or Big Z at those 3 and 4 spots. That's where, you're going to need to score some points probably to win a lot of games. I would say.
And I think that's the plan, obviously, right? Yeah. And we saw that last year and even the Elite 8 year, a team that was far more geared towards offense than they were defense, and they were top 3 in the country, offensive efficiency, through really leading from the start of February leading into the NCAA tournament. That was a team that ranked outside of the top 100. And defensive efficiency, the same type of conversation we had last year going down the home stretch of the regular season. And that does limit your overall ceiling, I think. And that is something that we talk time and again, year after year. Like, hey, look at the Final Four. Hey, look who's cutting down the nets. A team that is complete, a team that can defend and score at a high level equally. Not necessarily equally, but, relatively within the top 10 to 15. Most times a national champion is being able to do both those things at an elite level. So from Illinois' standpoint, I think that if you're trying to look at it from what could go right to be a lot better defensively, I think Stojakovic, could he be a better defender than Will Riley? Could he be a better defender than KJ? Yeah, I could see that.
Adam you would Miller hope for that. I mean, let's face it. I don't think either of those guys were good.
Right, exactly. And just the standpoint of he's somebody that's played a good amount in college now, and he's not as slender as Will Riley is. So I think that he could be an upgrade there. Adam Miller would be a supreme upgrade over KJ or anybody Illinois had on the perimeter last year outside of Kylan Boswell. So I think Kylan Boswell and Adam would both be good defenders. I think Z at the rim is going to be a real shot blocking presence. You worry about him beyond that. I think you're going to play, we talked about this, you're going to play a ton of drop coverage. Probably not going to switch off the 4 or the 5. Those are going to be matchups that you lock in on. And then there's going to be pressure on your guards to fight through screens, make sure that they're not getting eaten up when you play drop, you're not hedging. Guards are going to have a step on them. Can you fight through that and make up for it? And that's going to be interesting. I think there are going to be some matchups where you are out-athleted. So that's something that will be part of the reality, but you will be highly, highly skilled offensively. And
lead blown at Wrigley Field.
Are you serious? Oh, man, Kyle, I'm sorry.
Yep, D-backs lead. 7-1 to 8-7 in one inning.
Now I feel bad. I sat here and said I want to see Kyle get worked up.
I'll keep it minimal.
It's all right. There's still plenty of time, man. Wind's blowing out 25 miles an hour, and the score is only a 1-run game. Like, did he miss that at third?
Yeah.
Yikes.
My goodness. It is a dumpster fire in that Cub bullpen.
8-7 Diamondbacks, still top of the 8th. And we'll see where it goes here down the home stretch.
What a defensive play there. We have Workman at third, lets a ball go under his glove, and then Happ throws a dart to the plate that would have kept it tied, and Carson Kelly decides, I'm not going to catch this one.
He wants to be the hero with the walk-off home run. So
I apologize for continuously derailing the Illinois conversation with the Cubs game that no one cares about. So, yes. What were you talking about again?
We just go
Defense.
Defense, yeah.
Illinois.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Trent said on the Max Twin City Recycling text line, agree with him. Need another ball handler. We talked about that late last segment. Oh, before we catch a break, I want to do 217. These numbers make me sick, LOL, talking about the price tags for these players. And, this is so insanely ridiculous if you step back and look at it. I'm sorry to be pessimistic, but sheesh, just ridiculous. Yeah, I get why people feel that way. I was even thinking about it today, and it might have been triggered by me betting some long shot home run parlay. I'm like, man, hey, if 6 guys hit a home run, those are stupid. Those are bets you shouldn't make. But Carson Kelly was one of them, by the way. If it hits, I'll get this much money. And then I'm like, for randomly, then you spread that out. How many times would I have to win that parlay and then afford a starter quality player in college basketball? But if Adam Miller makes $1 million, which I think he's going to make based on whether he goes to Illinois or somewhere else, you're paying that guy $100,000 if you just break it down by games, every 3 or 4 games. Think about that.
That's crazy to put it in that perspective.
Yeah. Now I know you're a basketball player outside of the season too. You get paid, like if you were in the NBA, you get paid to train, you get paid to, go through the off-season stuff, and NFL, the OTAs and whatever.
How much is AJ DeBonsta going to make per game next year? If we assume that, 7.5 or something? I'll do the math.
Okay.
I'll do it.
You're going to have 31 regular season games. If you're going to include...
Let's call...
36 games?
35, 2 each in each tournament or something like that.
Yeah.
Oops.
So, $1 million player over a 35-game season is going to make... I don't know why that math didn't work. $1 million player...
$215,000 a game for DeBonsta.
That's insane. If you're making $1 million, you're making about 29,000 a game. Yeah,
that'll
crazy.
work. Yeah,
this is crazy. Yeah,
even Jake Davis is probably making like a couple thousand.
I know,
game.
Right?
I mean, good for him. It's insane.
I didn't want to pick on like a Jake Davis, but I'm like, I'm gonna have to hit like 3 of these parlays just to afford Jake Davis on my team. Jeez. But just for fun, I was trying to think of what college basketball pay-for-play scandals have come out to where we saw dollar figures, and I did look up the DeAndre Ayton, which is part of the federal investigation, and there was a wiretap, and we heard there was a phone conversation where there was talk between Christian Dawkins. Sorry, Andre Dawkins. Christian Dawkins and Sean Miller about a $100,000 payment to get DeAndre Ayton. That was back in 2018. Getting DeAndre Ayton for $100,000, and now no slight to him,
he'd make $4 million today.
Yeah, no slight to him, but Adam's gonna make like $1 million, and Merez Johnson $1.5 million. And at the high end scale, you're talking about $4 million. Sorry, I meant to mention PJ Haggerty. There's a report from Jeff Goodman during our show today. PJ Haggerty, the guard from Memphis, reportedly his camp is asking for more than $4 million and being able to play full-time point guard. So there you have it.
Just to compare it to, as you've said before, the Terrence Shannon dollar figure, the Marcus Damask dollar figure, the Coleman Hawkins before he got the $2 just insane. How I mean, I know that this offseason is different and that you're kind of double dipping with the money, but it's not like it's going to go down from here. To look back on some of these off seasons or some of these players that you've gotten, Will Riley for $800,000 is going to look like, are you kidding me? You got a first round draft pick for $800,000? They're going to go for $20 million in 10 years.
Exactly.
I mean, they're going to be signing Kyle Tucker contracts to come play 4 years of college pretty soon. if we don't figure this out, because it's getting a little out of control.
Oh, and by the way, I know we're due for a break. There are guys who don't have eligibility left who are entering the portal. Another one, we talked about Dane Danger being one of them. Does he have a year or no? Dante Maddox is like, I don't care that I played 5 years in college. I'm going in the portal.
There's so many of those guys that are just like, I don't have any eligibility, but who's stopping me from entering the portal and calling me and offering me? If no one notices, can I just show up and play for another team next year and make $1 million?
Insane. We'll take more of your thoughts, your questions, and we'll toast one on a Friday at some point. Keep you updated on the Cubbies, and we'll play some Robbie Hummel when we come back. That is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Some of which require surgery, some of which can be managed without surgery.
There's a quickly growing makeshift memorial here on campus. People have been coming by all last night and this morning and through the afternoon, laying down flowers and comforting their fellow FSU students who are just trying to process yesterday's horrifying shooting.
The accused shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Eigner, a student at FSU and son of a sheriff's deputy. He was shot by police, is recovering in the hospital. Investigators have not yet determined a motive. President Trump going after Democrats and the media for defending Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an illegal immigrant the Supreme Court unanimously said was wrongly deported. The president says they're defending a man accused of being a gang member and a wife beater.
We got a little biography of him. Not a very innocent guy.
Abrego Garcia has been accused in federal court of being a member of the MS-13 gang. His lawyers say the allegation is false. His wife has also defended him despite the past alleged abuse. And Dr. Mehmet Oz, now head of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. He was sworn in this afternoon by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Dr. Oz says no American will be left behind by his work.
Every great society, everyone, has an opportunity to take care of its most vulnerable and treasures that opportunity. And we're a great people, so we will do the same.
Democrats have raised concern the Trump administration may be hostile to established medical science. America's listening to Fox News.
It's tax season. By now, we're all a bit tired of numbers, but here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number, $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed. Save up to 40% in your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com, promo code CLAY. Terms apply.
You ever try fixing your car and realize you're missing that one part? Yeah, been there. That's why eBay's my go-to. They've got millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. I'm talking brake pads for when yours have seen one too many miles of stop and go. Oil filters, cause you don't mess around with your engine care. Even got this cold air intake on my watch list. I might just go for it. To keep the ride cool and your DIY streak hot. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Well, you better get to work. You've got until May 7th to get your federal Real ID card, or you'll have a hard time getting on a flight. Fox's Alexis McAdams has that story from Logan Airport in Boston.
We really don't have that much time left for these Real IDs. This comes as the TSA says nearly 20% of Americans still don't have their Real ID, and now we're just days away from that deadline. What it could mean is longer TSA lines, because if somebody doesn't have it, an extra 10, 20 seconds a person when there's thousands coming through could lead to a lot of time. On May 7th, you must have a Real ID or your passport to fly within the country. So you got to show your passport now if you want to go to Florida, not just out of the country. And it requires more documents to obtain a Real ID than just your regular driver's license. You'd have to show documents like proof of lawful status, like a valid passport, your birth certificate, or a green card.
The Real ID Act was signed into law in 2005 with the goal of tightening security after the 9/11 attacks. It's been delayed multiple times for reasons including the coronavirus pandemic and opposition from states concerned about privacy. The Secretary of State says the United States could back out of peace efforts between Russia and Ukraine.
While Secretary of State Marco Rubio says discussions have been constructive and created an outline for steps towards peace during meetings in France, the top U.S. diplomat signaling the U.S. could move on from talks on a peace deal if progress isn't made.
We need to determine very quickly now, and I'm talking about a matter of days, whether or not this is doable over the next few weeks. If it is, we're in. If it's not, then we have other priorities to focus on as well.
President Trump has made ending the war in Ukraine a priority, but Russia has rejected a ceasefire deal that's been pushed by the administration and backed by Ukraine. French leaders say another series of discussions are expected in London soon. In Washington, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
Vice President J.D. Vance in Italy today talking trade and the war in Ukraine with that country's prime minister. I'm John Saucier, and this is Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for East Central Illinois, Champaign-Urbana vicinity on this Good Friday. Going to be a summer-like feel as the day wears on. Increasing south wind 20 to 30 miles per hour and gusty. Sunshine this morning, a partly sunny afternoon. Up either side of 80 and a remote chance for a stray shower thunderstorm late this afternoon or evening time. Otherwise, 4 to 9 periods of showers and thunderstorms. Widespread, good soaking rains across the area. 57 for the low. Gusty southwest wind will diminish and turn northwest to north for the day. Tomorrow, much cooler. Showers in the morning and perhaps in the afternoon with a rumble of thunder in spots on a high at 62. Scattered showers, cooler 49 for tomorrow night. Easter Sunday, some rain around in the early to mid-morning. Back in for the afternoon, mostly cloudy 68 up to 65 and a couple of showers on Monday. Dry Tuesday at 73, low to mid-70s. That's better Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but each day an outbreak of showers and thunderstorms across the area. Overnight readings into the 50s. Have a great Easter. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solgay.
It is The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Things continue to get interesting at Wrigley Field. It is 11-7, Arizona.
Interesting isn't the term I'd use personally, but
come on, Kyle. The last 2 times the bases have been loaded, there's been a grand slam, and there's almost the bases loaded again. 2 on, no out, bottom 8.
And the best hitter in baseball's at the plate, Carson Kelly.
That's right. That's right. But we will we'll let you know as we go along. Kyle, don't blame him if he gets majorly distracted over the next half hour, however long this game.
I should probably just turn this off to save myself from
Come on,
whatever
man.
that was. It was a 10-run inning in the 8th. I mean, you have to try to be that bad.
It really was.
10-run inning for the Diamondbacks.
Okay. All right.
So much for that positive. Let's get this win. Let's get the series started. Let's win the Ray Burns matchup.
Apologies. Although I just got a text from my Cardinals buddy.
Now Carson Kelly just homered again.
Wow.
It's a 1-run game. This
all right,
game
come
is
on.
insane.
He's on steroids. This is ridiculous. He's not using a torpedo bat, is he?
I don't think he is, but this game is not the game to be on in the middle of our radio show. This is one of the craziest baseball games I've ever seen.
This is what I expected. When I saw that there was a 25-mile-an-hour wind to the outfield, and why do I keep saying to the outfield? Blowing out. Gosh. I'm like, this is going to be a slugfest. And I was tempted to bet the over. It was at 11, which is high, but now
about to double that if someone else scores. Someone probably will on the Cubs pen.
There was what? It was 2-1 after the first 5.
2-1.
2-1
into
Cubs.
the 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bottom 7 is when Happ hit the grand slam. So after the top of the 7th, it was 2-1. It is now 11-10.
Still nobody out. Bottom of the 8th. See, Kyle, I was telling you to be optimistic, and Carson Kelly, a.k.a. Mike Piazza.
That's unreal that he's just homered again. What is I think that random drug test is on its way to his locker right now. It'll be waiting for him after the game.
They're testing him in the dugout as we speak. But good for him. Good for Carson Kelly. Again, let's get this out of the system by the time June comes around, and we'll have to see him against my Cardinals. Back to basketball. Big Def says, can't listen today, but I feel the same way about Paige's kid that I felt about Josh Sticks and then some on a team of spot-up shooters with a system that doesn't generate catch-and-shoot opportunities organically unless you're standing on the logo. Andre would really tie the room together, as Jeff Bridges says in the Big Lebowski. I can't talk. When you get to the weekend, my brain's fried. Anyways, let's let Robbie Hummel do some talking, huh? A guy that would make a lot of money if he was still playing in this era, a 3-time All Big Ten player, and was spectacular at Purdue, obviously, and does a great job. I think so.
I believe that he's my favorite broadcaster going right now in college basketball. I know for some reason that's a hot take for Illinois fans. Now, I don't watch all of them on TV, but from what I've heard of him, he's been on a lot of games. I think he's awesome.
I think he's the best. Yeah, I agree. Him and Benetti. Did they not do it anymore together? Is Benetti not?
They've done it a few times. They did one of the games. It might have been the first Michigan State game. They had Benetti, Hummel, and Raftery 3-man crew on one of those Friday night games. I mean, talk about the A crew. Does not get better than that.
You can't do better than that. So, yeah, was that the game when Raf did the Will Riley tariffs?
It wasn't an Illinois game.
Okay.
It was a Big Ten game.
Gotcha.
Might have been Michigan State. Might have been a Purdue game. But.
Okay. Yeah. So Robbie Hummel at Coaches vs. Cancer on Wednesday night in Gifford, and got a chance to catch up with him to get his thoughts on the program, thoughts on roster building. I asked him about the current state of college basketball and what's his viewpoint of that as a former player, and obviously a guy that is very firmly in this world now from a broadcaster side. So I thought it was really good stuff from Robbie Hummel. I wanted to get you his thoughts. So here is Robbie Hummel.
Robbie, why was it important for you to come down to this event?
Yeah, I've heard so many good things about it. You know, I know Coach Painter was here a couple years ago or last year, and he talked about how cool it was and how unique of a venue it was too. So, you know, I have roots to Champaign. My dad played tennis at Illinois. My grandfather was a professor here. My uncle still is a professor here. So when Brad asked me, I really wanted to do it. I've wanted to be more a part of Coaches vs. Cancer and everything that college basketball does. You know, I think something that maybe the game doesn't get enough credit for would be that it really has taken on kind of a, I think, leadership role in sports, whether it's, you know, there's multiple different ways you can look at it, but college hoops has really been a part of raising awareness and raising money and just, you know, doing so much for cancer stuff. So I've wanted to be more involved, and Brett asked me, and I was honored to come down here and be a part of it.
As someone who's seen this program from afar, up close the last decade or so, like, what have you noticed about Brad Underwood's program? What's your takeaway of what he's built here?
Yeah, they win. You know, I think that's the biggest thing, and it's been as someone that's watched from doing it from a TV standpoint and also just watching afar as a basketball fan. I think the thing that I appreciate about Coach Underwood is there's not one way to do it. You know, they've run the spread, they've run pick and roll, they've run dribble handoff for Io, they've run ball screen stuff. It's been a lot of different ways to do it, and I think his flexibility is really fun to watch as someone that really likes basketball and likes to see different ways. You know, I think especially with the game now, if you look at it from a pro perspective, everyone kind of plays the same way. And I think with Brad, he's been the ultimate in what is our personnel good at and how can I coach these guys up and let's play to our strengths. And it's, you know, it kind of morphs from year to year, like where you're going. But I think that's interesting. And certainly with the current landscape of the portal, you have to be flexible. So he's won a lot of games. He's done a great job in Elite Eight, you know, last season, and making the tournament again, getting to the second round this year. So I just really enjoy watching him play. His teams play hard, they compete, and certainly Illinois had kind of fallen to a place that was not where it was, you know, in some of the times in their past. So he's gotten it back to where it should be.
As someone that follows college basketball, what have you noticed in the portal, you know, first few weeks of the offseason, not just Illinois, but around the country?
You know, I can't even lie. After the Final Four, I've kind of turned my brain off. I've seen it on Twitter some, but I haven't followed nearly as closely, and I'll have to eventually kind of look up of who is playing where. But once that horn went off in San Antonio, I was kind of like, I've disconnected a little bit. I've seen some, but I couldn't tell you. I saw the Mirkovic kid in Portland. I saw him play. Not that he's Portal, but yeah, I couldn't really even tell you. So,
what'd you think of him?
I honestly it's hard for big guys sometimes in all-star settings to like score. And he just kept finding open areas, and those guards kept finding him. He's got a good skill set from the little I watched of what he's done overseas. but he can dribble, pass, and shoot like a lot of those Euro bigs can. And yeah, he was just productive, which isn't always easy in those all-star settings for big guys. So.
On that broadcast, you guys talked about the international footprint that this program's had. What do you think about that other avenue of adding talent?
Sure.
What's meant for Illinois?
Well, you look at how skilled, and I think Tomislav's a great example, or Kasparis as well, like how skilled those guys are, how fundamentally sound players are that grow up in Europe. And you could get into the whole debate of, are we doing this the right way in the States with the AAU culture and kind of the way that we raise our players now. But man, those guys, they can dribble, they can pass, they can shoot, whether they're 6 foot tall or 7 foot tall. And I think that's what really stands out. And then just their experiences that they've gone through. When you've been a pro and you've played for the FC Barcelona junior team, or like the kid that just signed at Purdue has played for Maccabi this year. I mean, that's a high level of basketball. So it's crazy that you can play in EuroLeague and then play in college, but it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. Like, could LeBron James be 45 and say, you know what, Ohio State sounds kind of good? Because it's kind of the same thing. It's we'll see where that goes to, but certainly the experiences that those kids get overseas, you are seeing pros and you're well coached, and I think it certainly translates well to college basketball.
Robbie, what's your take on Big Ten basketball, kind of the state of it? It's been a long time since a Big Ten team won a national championship.
Sure. Yeah, I think a little bit of it is just being unlucky. Look at Purdue loses to UConn. UConn was as good as anybody. Or Michigan loses to Nova. That Villanova team was stacked. Or Illinois loses to North Carolina. Well, that North Carolina team was really, really good. So there's been some, I think, misfortune in terms of who we've had to run into. And at that point, everybody is good, right? You've got to find a way. But just, I think the biggest thing for the Big Ten, and this year was a good step in the right direction in the sense that we get 4 teams for the second weekend. And you just got to keep giving yourselves opportunities. You run into Houston, you run into Auburn for Michigan and Michigan State, you run into Florida for Maryland. Those are the big dogs right there. And we've got to get over the hump. But I think the more chances you can give yourself, going 8-0 in the first round, getting 4 teams the second weekend, that's a good start for us. And we've got to keep building on it. So it's been too long. The Big Ten is way too good to have not won since 2000.
Robbie, what do you think about the current environment in college basketball? You were a great player. You would have been making a lot of money. What do you think about that? You talk to a lot of coaches.
I guess I wear it as a badge of honor to play in the era where you could get a bagel from your school but no cream cheese because it made it a meal. But it's changed so dramatically. And I agree with Coach Altman. Like, we should have been paying the players for a long time now. But I don't think that this is probably the way we wanted to see it happen. And it's kind of been, and I thought he said it well, where if we had just been kind of doing the little things, whether it was jersey sales or a local car deal, or, if you're Caitlin Clark, you can get a Nike deal. That's fine. And I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. But it has become more of the pay for play, and kind of like you said, you're buying players. So it's gone from that would be taboo to that's what it is. And, I'm happy the guys are making money and getting paid, but I certainly wish that they had decided this in 2006 to start it. So that would be good.
What the hell? What the hell?
That's great stuff.
Is going on at Wrigley Field.
Oh, man. Things changing faster than they change in this transfer
I
portal.
appreciate you for hitting that Robbie Hummel at that moment based on what happened while we were playing it. That is an awesome move by you.
Tell the people.
You win the MVP of the week.
Thank you. What happened, Kyle?
The Chicago Cubs now lead the game thanks to a 2-run homer by Kyle Tucker and a solo homer by Seiya Suzuki. 13-11 in the bottom of the 8th.
So this game was 2-1 going into the 7th inning, going into the bottom of the 7th inning. Since then, the Cubs scored 5 runs. Then the Diamondbacks scored 10 runs. And we're talking about one half of an inning. 5 runs in the bottom of the 7th for the Cubs, 10 runs in the top of the 8th for the Diamondbacks, 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th for the Cubs, and still counting, there's 1 out. This is nuts.
I don't feel comfortable with a 2-run lead and into the 9th the way this has gone. How many D-backs going to, it was 10-6, so that means the D-backs are going to score 2 and tie it. Then we got extras. Anything could happen in this game. Pop-ups are leaving the fence at this point. This is unbelievable.
I'm super jealous because former member of this show, good friend Trevor Valise, I mentioned to you, you and I have been on this home run bet kick I ask you every day who you're betting for a home run.
I've had a home run bet every single day. As long as DraftKings will give them to me, no sweat.
Yep.
I'm going to keep betting them. Now, I am a little ice cold right now, but we'll get back going again. I should have bet this game.
I know,
that was a
right?
mistake. I was thinking about it because of the win, but then like Eugenio Suarez was plus 180, even though that was probably free money. He's playing the Cubs.
They tanked a lot of the prices. But, I was dabbling with some home run parlays because, it's a Friday. Let's have some fun, and there's some games. The Cardinals in particular, not to this extent, but the Mets-Cardinals game, wind blowing out, big time to left. You got another game in Baltimore that's going to have something similar. Trevor's just sent me, and he was complaining because the Tucker one went 390 and didn't go out. That was the triple. That was the one that he hadn't hit. I'm sorry, Trevor, if I'm sharing your personal business here. 4-leg parlay, Ian Happ, Gurriel, Suarez, Tucker, and he was mad Tucker's didn't go out. Then, of course, Tucker does what he does.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and that's I won't say what he won, but I
think you could
plus 180 or 180 to 1. If you bet $1, you won 180, and he bet more than $1.
Man, that's awesome.
So now I'm super jealous, Trevor.
Yeah,
Thank you.
man.
That I'm now going to make a couple of more of these probably lotto home run bets for
did
tonight.
he go out grocery shopping at 2-1 in the 7th? Like, all right, that bet's. I mean, we're done with that. I mean, obviously he's a Cubs fan. He's going to watch the game, but I'm like, he's probably deleted the app in the 7th inning. Like, okay, well, that was a miss.
He sent it to me and Lon in a group text, and he said the picture of the other three having hit and Tucker not, and he said sigh. And I said, Tucker's almost went out too, still time. He goes, 390-foot triple. I'm not mad. Of course,
well, he made up for it.
Yeah, he made up for it.
That last one that gave the Cubs the lead was crushed. That thing would have left any day. That would have left on a day the wind was blowing in 40 miles an hour.
Right. This is a show. I feel bad. We got to switch seats because you got to keep turning your neck to see this TV, and
that's why I think you talked a lot in the first hour, which is great. You gave a lot of great insight in Illinois basketball. It's what everyone wants to hear. But I think the reason is because my head was turned looking at this game for the entire first hour. So you're like, oh, gee, I got to keep going here. So I apologize. I apologize for that.
No, you're good. You're good. We are due for a break, though.
The bases are loaded still in the 8th. Might not be a 6-run inning for the Cubs. We got more coming.
Love it. Although I'm just watching for the entertainment value. I'm not saying I'm wearing my Cardinals hat, like, go Cubs, go. I'm not going to sing the song with you, Kyle, when they win. But
I'm glad you didn't wear your D-backs hat today.
I wasn't going to do that.
After they put up 10 in the 8th, we probably would have been off the air if that D-backs hat was in here.
That wouldn't have been a D-backs move. That would have been a different move. But all right, anyways, before we catch a break, let me do a little work. Let me tell you about Busey. Spring cleaning for your finances. The season for spring cleaning is here, and while many may be focused on organizing closets and scrubbing floors, Busey encourages you to clean up your finances too. They have got 7 steps to cut back on financial clutter. Pay down your debt. I was going to say elevate. It's evaluate. You don't want to elevate your debt. You want to pay it down. So evaluate how much debt you have, pay it down, review your budget, check your credit report, sign up for e-statements and paperless billing. You want to keep your house physically and financially organized. Set up automatic bill pay and never worry about a missed payment impacting your credit score. Consolidate your accounts, close accounts you rarely use, and make sure to do this. Download the Busey mobile app to manage your finances whenever and wherever you are with their mobile and online services. So get started on your spring cleaning today with expertise and innovative products and services at Busey. Visit Busey.com for more resources or stop by one of their many convenient locations. Busey, member FDIC.
Sarah Champagne's Ben Quattrone on keeping his employees.
It's got to be the place to work. We have to pay the best. We have to treat people the best. Some of the guys wanted to order pizza the other day. Well, we bought 30 Papa Del's pizzas. BMW had the best month they've ever had. They said, can we have a cookout? Saturday, I cooked like 50 ribeye steaks. And they were expecting like cheeseburgers, burgers and hot dogs and stuff. Like, if I'm eating steak, you're eating steak. We both eat steak, we both eat hamburger.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com.
Urbana's Market at the Square has been cultivating a vibrant scene in CU since 1979. Get to know your farmers bringing locally harvested honey, crafts, jewelry, art, fresh cut flowers, plus produce including fresh leafy greens and root vegetables, fresh baked treats, and a wide selection of proteins. Going on now, every Saturday, 7 a.m. till noon, rain or shine at Illinois and Vine, it's Urbana Market at the Square. Find Urbana Market on Facebook or urbanamarket.org.
Your lawn is an important investment. Let Spring Green take care of that lawn. Your local, family-owned and operated Spring Green has been committed to beautifying your neighborhood through quality, service, and professionalism. Spring Green's full program customers are backed by their guarantee of satisfaction. Smart Money Magazine reports that consumers value a home with a well-maintained lawn and landscape up to 11.3% higher than the base price. Why don't you call Spring Green today, 359-2111, or visit them at spring-green.com. Attention all truck drivers looking for a new opportunity with great pay and amazing benefits. Gale Frericks Trucking has got you covered. Join their team, receive a $4,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, $4,000 just for coming on board. Plus, enjoy a $1,200 gross weekly pay guarantee. Drive their state-of-the-art Freightliner Cascadia trucks equipped with a revolutionary system designed to reduce weight and downtime. Get home every weekend and some nights during the week with paid vacations and holidays. They offer company-sponsored health insurance and all the benefits you deserve. Regional drivers get first priority. Don't wait. Apply in person at Dedicated Diesel, 1313 Triumph Drive, Urbana, or call Tim at 765-505-1295. That's 765-505-1295. Start your journey today with Gale Frericks Trucking.
Crystal Lake Park Family Aquatic Center opens May 24th. Open 7 days a week, 12:30 p.m. on weekdays and 11 a.m. on weekends. Lap swim is Monday through Friday, 6 to 11 a.m. Check out pool memberships and punch cards for extra savings, and be on the lookout for special days and promotions at the pool. For more information, call 217-367-1544 or visit urbanaparks.org. Urbana Park District. You belong here.
From computer systems to brakes and tires too, at PDR, fixing cars is what they do. Remember, when you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481 or use their dedicated text-only line at 383-0619. Additional information including repair quotes and online scheduling requests available from the website at pdrauto.com. Remember, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR. It's time to become familiar with Salon 105, an upscale salon. Meet Morgan, one of the talented stylists at Salon 105 in Mahomet.
So I do a lot of lived-in color, blonding, brunettes, natural-looking reds, extensions. I do kids cuts. I love doing what I do because Kelsey has a very unique way of cultivating an environment that people just want to be in.
And what makes the environment so special at Salon 105?
Oh gosh, it's inclusive, it's genuine. I don't feel like I have to, try and be cool. I can be myself. And I think our clients experience that also. I have a guest who came in and she pulled me aside at the end of the appointment and she was like, I'm very appreciative to be here because I feel like I belong here too.
To book your appointment, go to salon-105.com. That's salon-105.com.
At Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people with amazing service, great design advice, and unbeatable selection and the best prices in town. It's the perfect time to update your home with waterproof flooring, carpet, hardwood, tile, and more. Then complete your rooms by shopping our incredible selection of furniture and accessories. We also offer great financing options. Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. 13-11 Cubs, top of the ninth, 2 outs as Ryan Presley trying to shut the door on this wild one at Wrigley Field. And, man, again, 5 runs, bottom 7th, 10 runs, top of the 8th, 6 runs.
Only fitting that the tying run's going to come up.
Bottom of the 8th.
And it's Corbin Carroll, too. This game is not over yet.
Over the previous 2 innings, there have been 21 runs. 21 runs, Kyle. And you hope it stops there.
But do you really hope it stops there? I mean, be honest, please.
You do. No,
I sure do.
You know,
I don't know if you do.
I'm entertained by
I don't
this.
know
So
if
do
a lot
I
of
want this to end? No,
a lot
I don't
of
want this to
listeners
end.
right now in this area probably don't.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But a lot of them do. A lot of Cubs
That's
fans
true.
around here,
Come
too.
on, man. 1 out. Let's get it.
7 total home runs in this game. I had to look this up during the break. Do you know what the record is for most home runs combined between the 2 teams is in a ball game? Can you guess? I wouldn't have known this off the top of my head.
I'll guess 12.
It's a good guess. 13. 13 is the record.
And the Cubs win.
Nice.
We're
Cubbies
singing
win.
Go Cubs Go.
I'm not going to sing it. 13-11. If you want to hear it, US 105.9 and flip back if you want to. I won't be singing it. Kyle, you can if you want.
I could have played it, but I'm not going to do that to people. I mean, you rewarded me by hitting the Robbie Hummel sound right as Kyle Tucker hit the go-ahead homer, so I'll pay you back by not playing Go Cubs Go right now.
Fair trade. Phillies D-backs in 2019, they hit 13 home runs between the 2 of them.
This has to be bordering on the record of most combined homers in the 7th inning or later. Only.
Yeah.
Maybe it broke it. I don't know. Someone will dig that up at some point.
I can't remember a game where there was 21 runs scored in the final 3 innings. That's another thing that we'll let the stat people dig into. Good crowd there at Wrigley Field. I think always a lot of people have work off today for Good Friday, but I think usually when you turn it into a Cubs game on a Friday afternoon,
Friday 120s. It's kind of perfect because it's just the perfect excuse for people to blow off work. Be like, I'm heading to Wrigley Field. So there's usually a nice crowd on Fridays. Yeah. Wednesdays, it gets a little light when they got the Wednesday 120 games. Fridays are usually popping over there.
Looks like it. Looks like a good place to have a good time for sure. Cardinals tonight will be back on this station, ESPN 93.5. They lost game 1 last night to the Mets. 4-game set. They're out in New York. And Miles Michaelis trying to get Illinois. Trying to get the Cardinals. I seriously need a weekend, man.
Me too.
Michaelis on the hill against David Peterson, and we'll see if he can get the Cardinals back on the right track. Michaelis wouldn't be my first pick in the rotation to do that, but we shall see. That will be here. I think 6:15 is his first pitch, so that's not too far away. Should we get to? Do you want to play one of Altman or Chris Collins? Want to hear one of those?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Chris Collins was good.
Yeah, let's do Chris Collins.
At least he was as part of the panel. I haven't listened to this yet.
Can we do this real quick? And I think we've discussed this before, but it was a conversation we had off the air yesterday, me, you, and Lon, and I'd be comfortable saying it, publicly because it's not like, it's anything that I'd be afraid to say. If for whatever reason Brad Underwood were to, retire or not be the coach at Illinois anymore, and look, he's completely safe and has done a fantastic job, and I think Illinois fans are very lucky to have Brad Underwood here. But if he were to retire and call it quits, where would you put Chris Collins on your wish list?
Really high. I'd have to think about what some of the other options are, but he would be really, really high on my list. I think he's fantastic at what he's done at Northwestern. I mean, it's so hard to win at Northwestern. When he got there, and Brad Underwood said this when he was introducing him on the panel on Wednesday, they hadn't ever made the tournament before. And now they've been to 3 since he's been there, and they've won a tournament game all 3 of those years. I think they've gotten to the round of 32, and They've had really good players come through there. I just think even just watching Northwestern play, they run great stuff. He's a heck of a coach in terms of game planning and putting guys in positions to succeed. What he got out of Boo Buie and developed him into, what he's turned Martinelli into now, Barnhizer.
Yep.
Even that first team that really broke through for him, I'm trying to remember who was on that. Was that like Bryant McIntosh?
Yeah,
and
it was.
Derek Pardon, Vic Law. Just some guys that were so unheralded, but he's kept Northwestern competitive. They've been a tough game on Illinois' schedule every year here recently. I wonder what Chris Collins could do at a real program with real resources, and I think he could do some really special things. I mean, he'd have to enter a new territory in terms of recruiting that he's never been to before, but his track record would sell itself immediately. Obviously, the fact that he already has ties now to the state, given that he's been at Northwestern for as long as he has. I just wonder what a Chris Collins program, a real Chris Collins program like in Illinois or a bigger school that has up to $10 million in money to spend and all the resources possible, what he could do with legitimate 4-star, 5-star talent. And I have so much respect for what he's done in an unenviable situation at Northwestern, trying to keep them competitive. I think with the right opportunity at the right place, and I think Illinois would be a fit just given that he's been at Northwestern. I think he could do some really big things, and I think he's a really, really good basketball coach.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on him as well. I like you, would have to see what other options are out there. Personally, if I were the guy making the call, I might, be more apt to want to take a chance on a Chris Beard. But I don't think that would ever happen ultimately at Illinois. I think, TJ Otzelberger would make sense. You could go through the list, and I know that it's hard on the spot to come up with exactly what this would look like, but I think that, yes, he's a very, very good coach. He's got ties to the area, the state, for sure. He talked, as you'll hear in this clip we're about to play, his dad obviously playing at Illinois State and being from downstate Illinois, and I think that he is just very well respected in coaching circles. I think if Dusty May didn't really emerge in the Michigan chase, he was a guy that there were some talks in some circles that he could be someone that might get offered that job. Indiana, when that came open, if they missed on a number of their first push targets, yes, even Brad Stevens, that maybe it would be Chris Collins getting a real look. Ultimately, they went Darian DeVries. I thought that Collins would have made a decent amount of sense. If they landed with Chris Collins at Indiana, I thought that would be a decent hire. That's a B hire probably in my estimation. I think Illinois, that would be similar. Like you said, he's been somebody that's gotten, in some real instances of going to the tournament, gotten a lot out of what he has. Could he elevate that bar with the opportunity to get more talent? It is a lot of pressure when you're in that position. The game changes a little bit when you then are surrounded by the high expectations and you're under a microscope so much and you're expected to go out and get big fish as far as recruiting. You maybe are forced sometimes to step outside of your normal territory of who you're targeting or what, I just think the bar raises, and we saw that a little bit with Bruce Weber at Illinois, is like maybe you're not recruiting your type of guy all the time anymore. You're expected to land, these prolific talents and everything like that. But I think now that the money situation is opened up the way it has, obviously at Illinois, that some of that, plays itself where the money does a decent amount of the talking. And yeah, Chris is a good coach, and I have a lot of respect for him. And I think that after that first tournament berth, and they missed the tournament for a handful of years, it was, between this first tournament appearance and second one, there was 5 tournamentless seasons. It looked a little dicey for him. I didn't know, how patient they were going to be, but then the Boo Buie team went and then went again, and now he's got it made at Northwestern.
I just think, he's really good. And the recruiting part of it, that would be the biggest hurdle for him. But at the same time, like, you're at a bigger place. Coaches take steps up all the time, and it's just ultimately the program is what's going to recruit.
Yeah.
And
right.
now in this age, money is going to recruit quite a bit.
Of course.
I mean, we saw even Brad Underwood, like he comes from Stephen F. Austin to Oklahoma State to Illinois, and his first couple years at Illinois, he's landing Ayo Dosunmu, Kofi Cover, Adam Miller. Like, it's just you get there, you have the resources, you have your track record
as an assistant.
Which he has a great staff there at Northwestern, and I'm sure, given his, I mean, he was on Coach K's staff for a while. Like, in terms of connections that he has in the coaching world, I don't think he'd have any issue assembling a really big-time staff at a bigger program. I've just been kind of waiting for him to take a bigger job. Like, I think he's probably had interest. I'd be shocked if I thought maybe this offseason there were rumors before Kevin Willard had the whole ordeal that maybe he was going to go to Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think even Indiana that was floated, like, could it be a possibility? I don't know if he was ever a real candidate there, but I think he should. And I get the point you made is the one that would be keeping him from doing it, is that he's built up so much goodwill at Northwestern. He probably, at this point, is going nowhere regardless of what he does, because he's the only coach in Northwestern basketball history who's gotten them to any level of relevance. And so he's so comfortable there, his job security so safe. Does he want to step into the expectations and pressure of a bigger job when he is a hero in Evanston? That would be the one thing, but I do think, I mean, he's still relatively young, right? In coaching circles compared to early 50s?
To look that up, that's a good question.
Or would he even still be in his 40s? No, he'd have to be in his 50s.
He just turned 50 last year.
I'm kind of waiting for it. I feel like within the next 2 years, he will leave Northwestern. That's my prediction. I don't think it'll be Illinois, because I think Brad Underwood will still be here.
Yeah.
At least I hope that's the case. I think it's getting close to time for him, especially now, like, Martinelli's going to be gone after this year. Can you come up with another, like, first-team All-Big Ten level player? I think the writing's going to be on the wall that he's gotten as much out of Northwestern as he's gotten, and now in this age, I feel bad for him now, and he's even going to talk a little bit about it in this clip we're about to play, but, like, with the dollar amounts we're seeing now going through the offseason, like, a place like Northwestern, it's going to be even harder for him to attract anybody. He's really going to have to be finding the gems, the Boo Buie level guys to win there. I think he's going to start to see here in the very near future that if he really wants to have consistent success, he's probably got to take a step up, and he's going to deserve it. So I'm interested to see. I think he will be somewhere other than Evanston by 2027.
I think it's a good call. And when I started seeing some of the rumors about him in Villanova, admittedly, I kind of wanted that for him, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that'd be a really nice reward for somebody that is a good coach, and I feel like deserves it. I just had this thought while you were talking. A lot of times, these really high-profile programs and a place where a coach has been there forever and has done tremendous things, you see the try to keep it in the family thing, right? And I think in a number of cases, it shouldn't be that way. Why wouldn't they just use where they're at in the pecking order to go out and attract a really, really good candidate? What if when Izzo retires at Michigan State, wouldn't Chris Collins make a lot of sense there as an established Big Ten guy? I mean, I don't know. I just don't see an assistant on Izzo's staff.
And he's a guy that I have a feeling that whenever Izzo does retire, he's going to want and be granted a lot of say in who takes over for him, because that's usually how it goes with guys like him. I think he would approve of Chris Collins because he does things similarly. Like, even, again, we'll hear him in a minute here. He values retention. He doesn't want to wade into the portal and build new rosters. He hasn't flirted with the big money tampering to get guys and stuff like that. Izzo's just so firm on how much he hates all that. I think Collins would be a guy that he would approve of taking over for him.
Yeah, and I just hate when it leads you into taking that next coach has no head coaching experience.
Hubert Davis.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Kyle Neptune.
And Tony Bennett tried to serve it up to Virginia, and they obviously went and hired somebody else. Actually hired the coach that beat him in the first round.
That's right, yeah, the UMBC coach.
A little irony there. You are seeing Alan Huss now, who's making the move to Creighton to be the coach in waiting he left High Point. He was the head coach at High Point, now going to Creighton to be the coach in waiting. So
now he's really good.
He's really good, right? But you see, in a lot of cases, you don't get the coach in waiting to be a guy that's been in that head seat before. I think, and it might align really well with your timeline. Within the next couple years, that might be when Izzo's done. I don't know. Maybe he'll still be here. But I think Chris would be a great land there, just kind of spitballing here. But anyways.
What you're telling me, I'm gonna get hate messages sent to me for even saying this. What you're telling me is that Illinois' head coach in waiting might be Tyler Underwood?
I'm not telling you that. No. Oh, man.
Could you imagine
what people would say?
No, we're seeing that. Kellen Sampson's the head coach in waiting at Houston.
That's right.
That's not happening.
Is that the same case with? I don't know if it's been announced that way, but
I think he wants
at Bruce Pearl. I meant Auburn. Yes, Houston. That's going to be the case. I think he might even.
No, it's in Kelvin's contract.
Yes, you're right.
I think Bruce wants it to be the case at Auburn, but it's not set in stone.
Yes.
Sorry,
Tyler has a long way to go in terms of, Brad would have to be here for quite a bit longer, like a long time still for that to be the case, I think. But and to have just a spectacular run still left in him, which could be the reality. But no, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that. No. Although I got a lot of respect for Tyler.
I was totally joking.
I know you were. I do think, and it does trigger people out there that like to throw a lot of shade at Tyler. I don't get that. I think Tyler does a really good job. And look, people are, anytime you want to. I'm not trying to sit here and tell people that Illinois at all times had a perfect offense and couldn't have tried to do some things differently within it. It's like anything. It's like it's like analyzing, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, different parts of it. I just think that simplifying it as to the only reason Tyler has that job is because of his dad. Yeah, I mean the open door of getting in there because of who his dad is real. That happens. And but what he's done with it, I think, has been positive, very positive for Illinois. So I have not been on that side of it to where people are so dismissive. Anytime his name comes up, they get turned off. I think Tyler's been a good asset to the staff. All right, let's play some Chris Collins. Should we take a break first? Now that we've gone on a little while, Kyle.
Let's play Collins and then then we'll hit it.
Yep. Chris Collins spoke at the Coaches vs. Cancer event on Wednesday. Here's his thoughts on a variety of topics.
It's an honor to be here. Brad's been telling me about this event for the last couple of years. So happy to be here. This is a cause that is so near and dear to all of us. I mean, there's not anyone that hasn't been touched and affected by what's going on with this disease. So to come down here, be a part of it. You guys know that, I have a lot of roots in this state, especially in central and southern Illinois with my family. So to come down and be a part of this event and have some fun and for a great cause and raise a lot of money, it worked out great that I was able to be here, and I'm excited and looking forward to a great night.
What do you think of when you get down to central Illinois, this part of the state again?
Oh, it's awesome for me. I mean, I grew up so many memories. My dad's from Benton, down south. Both my parents went to Illinois State, so the Bloomington Normal area, just growing up as a kid. So many summers coming back, hanging out. A huge, obviously, growing up in the state of Illinois and coming back to this area. It's the the last 3 or 4 times I've come to this area, I've gotten my ass kicked. So it's a little bit more fun now to not have to just be in front of you guys after getting my butt kicked by Brad and his team. So it's just a great, and the event, I've heard so many great things, a lot of fun and great cause, raise a lot of money. So it's fun to be here.
You and Brad are 2 of the most tenured coaches, obviously a rivalry between the schools. What has this relationship been like between you two and the competitiveness on the court?
Yeah, I mean, you guys both know we're ultimate competitors. I've talked about it a bunch, for us building our program. I have so much respect for what Illinois has done, what he's done, the championships he's won. I mean, I would love for, us to be to a point where it's a game that everyone looks forward to. We're getting better. We've had some success at home. We've gotten lucky a few times, but Brad and I have been friends. I've known him for a long time. I'm a basketball guy, so you kind of in the course of the years you get to know guys, and so much respect what he's done and what the coach he is, and getting to know him and being in the league. I think the one thing that's great about the Big Ten, and Dana's finding this out, like we compete like crazy, but we got basketball people in this league that really respect the job and respect what coaching is, and I've enjoyed that so much, just the respect and the camaraderie that we've built in the league amongst coaches away from the competition.
If Dana can tell us about Brad as a basketball player, can you tell us about him as a golfer?
Brad's a good golfer. I wasn't in his group today. I think he was ducking me, but I heard about the score. I've known about it, so I got to keep working, man. I got to get. Nowadays, though, the golf game suffers with portal madness. So hopefully, as we can all take a little deep breath as we get deeper into the spring, but maybe next time I'll get in his group so I can get in his head a little bit.
How have you found your stride or your niche in the transfer portal era, Chris? Obviously, with how much money's being thrown out there, like what have you found is successful for Northwestern?
Well, I think everyone kind of has to find kind of their model. For us, we're still going to try to stay true to the culture of retaining. We've been fortunate the last couple of years. I think it's a big part of our success to have a lot of guys stick around and kind of that have been a part of winning. We've had a couple of good years in a row, 3 winning seasons and going to some tournaments. And I think that's the model for us. I mean, especially the academic component of Northwestern, it's going to be hard to have, I so respect these guys that have to bring in 10, 11, 12 new players and try to build a team every year. I mean, I still want to be a team that builds through high school, develops, and then uses the portal to kind of sprinkle in. Okay, hey, do you need a guard? Do you need a big guy? You need a shooter? And that's been our model so far. I mean, we'll see how this thing continues to evolve. It's getting crazier every year. But that for us is going to be, I think, our pathway to success going forward.
Everyone's still waiting on the settlement. How do you think, as you project forward, RevShare's impact on the game and also for you guys specifically Northwestern?
Well, I hope the waters can calm a little bit. I think we're seeing now it's just at a point where we're all just trying to navigate, and it's changing every day. And I think all of us, we love the fact that these players can make money, and that's long overdue. It's just, how can we create some guardrails? How can we create some parity where it's a somewhat level playing field with what everybody's working with, and it's done in the right way, and where these guys can still make a lot of money playing basketball. I think we all strive for that. I think right now it's a little bit of the Wild Wild West. You're seeing a football, basketball, all the sports really, and you're just kind of holding on for dear life. That's the daily, you're waiting on that call every day. It's almost the daily fire that you got to put out, or what's next and how are we putting our roster. And I just hope over the next couple years, as we live with this settlement, and as we figure things out, we can kind of get to a point where, okay, this is a good system. It's going to really benefit the student athletes, and it's going to give the schools an opportunity and the coaches to build a program, because it's really hard right now with what's going on.
Kelsey Furniture in downtown Tuscola sells Tempur-Pedic beds. What's it like?
I'm going to tell you right now, Stevie, that thing is the best thing I've ever slept on in my life. My wife and I both have said we've never had better night's sleep. And the people at Kelsey's were fantastic. Brian is the guy that helped us. As much as I did my research, he had a world of knowledge about beds themselves. Oh, man, it's like sleeping on a cloud, man.
Kelsey Furniture, downtown Tuscola.
Are you tired of shivering in the winter? Look no further than your local heroes at ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Hi, this is Gina inviting you to give us a call at 217-352-5400 to book your appointment to make sure your furnaces run safely and efficiently this winter. We've been proudly locally owned and operated and have been serving our community for over 50 years. ABC, always be comfortable. Call me 217-352-5400 to book your appointment today or go to abcheatingandac.com.
Well, I tell you what, though, A&R has been such an amazing, impactful company. Your grandfather, your dad, you've all gone through stuff. And your secret is what, John?
Well, I mean, you have to trust that you're doing the right thing, first of all. And you got to surround yourself with good people. And I think over the years, we've had some really good people that have been part of A&R. And, you know, we owe a lot of our success, if not all of it, to those people.
Neil, you could say A&R has built a great part of Champaign-Urbana. It's about people. Can you explain the culture, why people would want to work at A&R?
We've had several families where we've gone even 3 generations. And these guys are long-term employees. They want to stay with us. And it's rewarding to know that they want to be with us. We have their backs. They have our backs. And that's a unique perspective, I think, from anybody this day and age.
I'm positive because you're such a solid company. A&R Mechanical, a thriving leader 100 years later.
Want unbeatable prices on your next furniture purchase, but also seeking that local hometown feel? Look no further than Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola. Customers rave about their friendly, established staff, as well as their great selection, amazing prices, and second-to-none delivery service. They're a third-generation local business, and they've always got your best interests at heart. Find the look you love for less. Open 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, but always available online at kelseyfurniture.com. That's kelseyfurniture.com.
Now at Jets, order any 3-topping pizza and get $5 off. Just use promo code 3TOP when ordering. That's the number 3, T-O-P. Want to impress family and friends and spend less? Get creative and build your own 3-topping pizza with their favorites for your holiday gatherings. Available in deep dish, thin crust, New York style, or hand-tossed round. Any 3-topping Jets pizza for $5 off with promo code 3TOP. It's a deal. Jets, better because it has to be.
Hark, there be a barge of overseas appliances, overpriced tariff-laden goods. Unload quick! We don't have any other choice but to pay the high prices.
Sure we do.
Well, if my eyes don't deceive me, it be Paul Rican from Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. What speak ye about saving money?
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, you don't need to worry about overpriced tariff goods. We are stocked with pre-tariff inventory.
You don't need me overpriced appliances from overseas?
Nope, we're good. We even have Speed Queen in stock made right here in the good old Midwest.
You want none of it?
We have 2 warehouses full of pre-tariff inventory and a service department to repair your existing appliance if you want to save even more money instead of buying new.
Well, I'll be. Can I interest ye in me lobster bisque?
Well, it is 9 a.m.
You got to try me lobster bisque.
Okay, all right, I'll get some to go. Take credit card?
With a 5% service charge and sign here for a minimum 30% tip.
Wow.
When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Finishing up on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. We, of course, got a toast one here. It's a Friday. Got to send you into the weekend right. I don't think we'll be toasting to, well, I shouldn't say we won't be. No, we'll be toasting to that Cubs game, I'm sure. Kyle will want to offer that up. We'll be toasting the start of the NBA playoffs or the NHL playoffs. We toasted the Blues because Lon's a big Blues fan. We'll raise one for him in tribute. Are you excited at all for the NBA playoffs?
I am. I love watching hoops. It's great basketball. I just have lost so much interest in the NBA regular season. I still love the playoffs, though, because that's when the stars are actually on the floor.
It's true.
High-level basketball. Some really good matchups, especially once we get into the semifinals and conference finals and NBA finals. So I am excited for it. And there's some really, really good potential matchups here. If we get a Cavs-Celtics Eastern Conference Finals, I think that'd be spectacular. Whatever the finals could look like with the Thunder versus an East winner. I mean, even I forget what some of the first round matchups are, which maybe I'm excited. I don't know who's playing.
There are a couple good ones that I'm
but
looking
there
for
are
in
some
the
good
West,
ones. Yeah,
in particular the Lakers and the T-Wolves.
Yep, that'll be
That's
fun.
round one. that I'll be looking.
Maybe Terrence can get on the floor a little bit in those, although I know he's fallen out a little bit.
Hope so. He had a huge game in LA, right? When
he did.
He went for
As
20
career
plus
high.
and, yeah, threw down some impressive slams. Houston and Golden State, also another one that I'm looking forward to.
Golden State's favored in that series. I was
Really?
looking to dabble at a little bit of NBA playoffs betting, and the Warriors are like pretty substantial favorites as the 7 seed against the 2-seeded Rockets, which
Interesting.
is just crazy. But it makes sense because since the Warriors have gotten Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline, they've been like the best team in the West. And now Houston, congratulations. After a bunch of down years, you're back to the top of the Western Conference. You get the Warriors.
Oh, boy.
Curry and Butler coming to town.
That's tough. But I'm a Steph guy. I'm appreciating when I can see Steph
I
on my
love
TV.
Steph.
He's so fun to watch, and you just try to remember that.
I love Jimmy too. I'll be a Warriors backer, even though it's tough to say that, but we're removed from the dynasty enough that I think I'm comfortable backing the Warriors for a while here.
I would say that too. Although something will happen with Draymond Green, and
of course,
then that will throw you back in the other way. And I covered him, but it's been long enough. Can I say this? Like, watching pods just annoys me.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know.
Knowing
I don't
some
know
of the
what it is about
Yeah.
it. It just I get that feel.
I wouldn't mind seeing the Thunder win it all this year, though. I love that team.
Yeah, no, they're fun.
Shea is awesome. Chet's a beast. I love Alex Caruso.
Jalen Williams, I'm a fan
Yep.
of his. So I think the matchups, especially like you said, as we get deeper, but LA and Minnesota round one and against LeBron and Luka, throw TJ in that mix. I'll be excited. So let's toast to the start of the playoffs, particularly Lons Blues. Let's toast to a wild one at Wrigley, which is a lot of fun to follow along here.